Oh, hello there. How are you? I'm good. It's Saturday night. I just got in from work. Well, that's not true. I got in from the bar. Went out for a little drinky doodle with some of my cohorts after work, but pretty functional group of people, so we don't get too out of control, which is good. Just some good, clean fun. But we're here to talk about the secret teachings of Jesus. So for Saturday nights, our segment is I read out of the Nag Hammadi scriptures because it was something that I was curious about and wanted to study, and I didn't have a lot of extra time, so I thought I'd make it a regular segment with us. And so this week will be a part 2. I started we covered a portion called Sowing and Reaping Truth last week. And I laughed because we didn't have a 45-minute episode. It was only 35 minutes. But we're back for part 2 because as soon as I finished the video, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot to cover that point and then that one. So I was like, all right, I'll do a part 2. So we have another video discussing one sentence. It's very exciting. Very packed sentence, very dense sentence. So there are benefits for us studying late, and I'm recording this at the after midnight hour. So it doesn't matter when you're seeing it, the energy is here in the video as it's being recorded. But the wee hours of the morning, particularly midnight, are very positive times of day. In the Kabbalistic perspective, starting at midnight and those first hours of the day are the most positive as far as the energy and influencing the day. So it's really powerful to study late at night, especially at midnight, because you are sort of surrounded by that positivity. You're protected by what's called surrounding light, and you are more open to the material seeping in and you embodying it and understanding it and having insights into that material, and also being able to integrate it without having to go through a lot of chaos in order to integrate and embody the information, if that makes sense. It's also very powerful because we're pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone and pushing ourselves to stay up late and, going against the instant gratification of the flesh. So that act of self-sacrifice opens up more power to be transmuted into something positive. So we're doing it. We're doing good in the world. All right, so I would suggest, if you haven't seen last week's episode, probably pause this video and go watch Sowing and Reaping Truth in the Secret Teachings of Jesus playlist on my channel. And while we're at it, why don't you like this video and subscribe to my channel? And if you can, comment or emoji or share this video or save it in a playlist. Any action you take helps me get my video and my other videos out into the world, out into the algorithm, and it helps me spread the message so that other people can find these videos, and that eventually maybe I'll be able to monetize my channel. I need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, you guys, and I've actually surpassed watch hours as far as my percentages being closer to my goal, so y'all better be subscribing. All right, so we're going to dive in now. I will read this portion. We're in the Gospel of Philip, and these are basically short kind of sections and segments that are sort of these cryptic, abstract statements that are sort of to be processed in a mental yoga, and your consciousness will unfold with it over time. And then what I will do is I will read this and then I will give you the impressions that I'm getting. I'm not a theologian or anything, so this is just downloaded channeling coming through as we're going. All right, is everybody buckled in? Are we ready? Strap yourselves in. We're about to take off. Put your tray tables up. Okay, sowing and reaping truth. Truth, which has existed from the beginning, is sown everywhere. And many see it being sown, but few see it being reaped. I'll read that again. Truth, which has existed from the beginning, is sown everywhere. And many see it being sown, but few see it being reaped. Now, of course, we're talking about energy, intention, right? What we reap, we sow. And we always think of it in sort of this like straightforward kind of way, but it doesn't always come back like that. You know, sometimes we don't have instant results for the efforts that we put in. Or sometimes we don't instantly like get punished for something that we did that was wrong or shady or like selfish or unkind. It comes later down the road. And so many times in our lives when bad things happen, we're like, oh, what did I do to deserve this? Like, oh, this is so unfair. But it's actually not. Because basically, we're exchanging energy all the time. And we are creating our reality through our energy and through our intention and through our focus and through our intent, our energy, our will, our emotions, our thoughts around it. And so any given moment, like, we're creating a reality. So we're always reaping what we sow. We are constantly planting seeds, whether we are aware of it or not, whether we're doing it by accident or whether it's on purpose, you know? So it's like the car is always driving itself. So you might as well like learn to drive the car, like get into the driver's seat, right? And take responsibility and take ownership for what you're putting out in the world. So if you are, like, we talked about this for 30 minutes last week. So we're covering different angles of this now. So before you're like, well, why isn't she talking about this? This is like the low-hanging fruit. Like, go back and watch last week's episode. But there is this concept called direct supervision from the light. And I learned about this in Kabbalah, my Kabbalah class, which I take classes through the Kabbalah Center online. You can like stream classes or Zoom them, and they're starting new classes all the time. So basically, you may have noticed if you're a spiritual person, you're like, oh, I'm a spiritual person, but I'm always coming up against these like challenges or like these intense situations, or like I feel like I'm always being run through the ringer, or you know, I feel like some people just have like such a smoother, easier go of it, and they're never having to like deal with all of this stuff. And so this is why. Because in Kabbalah, there's a concept that is talked about where if someone isn't really what's called a righteous person or an Israelite, someone who's not trying to have affinity with the Creator, they haven't chosen to go down the soul path. They haven't chosen to evolve their soul. They haven't chosen to be spiritual. And it's like, their life is so easy. They never have any problems. Their money's always okay. Like, nobody's ever has like health upsets. Everybody in the family like just basically gets along. Like, what's up with them? And then you have like a super spiritual person or a very like kind and generous, like, you know, caring individual who's like stricken with some illness or who has a constant struggle with money or relationship problems. And you're just like, why is it? Or like things just like backfire on them so fast. And so basically what's happening is the people who aren't spiritual, to a certain degree, the spiritual personalities that are over us, let's call it our spiritual network, spiritual team, our heavenly helpers, have almost decided that these people aren't participating in the process. So they're not they're a lost cause. It's like it'd be just pointless suffering. They're not going to catch on. They're not getting the lesson. They're not there's no reason to put friction in their way. We're not trying to evolve them towards anything. And it's all our free will. So life can't force you into, it can strongly suggest you into a spiritual awakening, but it can't force you there. And so if you're noticing like these people who aren't spiritual, it's like they have it so easy. It's because they're not entering into a process. And the spiritual process requires that we face some challenging situations, that we take some risks, that we stretch our faith, that we have our faith tested, that we are, when the rubber hits the road, like, how are you really going to act? It's like we have to sort of be in to walk through the fire. And so what is that? That's called, so there's this thing called direct supervision by the light. And if you're a spiritual person and you feel like God's so strict on me, like if I do the slightest little thing, it's like I get instant karma. That's like instant karma returns back to me. That's called direct supervision. And that's actually good, because the more righteous you are and the more elevated you are as a soul, as a spirit, that means that you know better than to do the shady stuff or the bad stuff or the selfish stuff or the unkind things. You know what's going on the energetic level. You know the consequences, and you know better than that, right? And so there's also more of, like, the stakes are higher for you and more to lose, right? So it's like the heavens are like, hey, remember you wanted to evolve, so you just did this shitty thing over there, like you did something that was shady or unkind to someone, and so you get an instant slap on the wrist from the universe. Maybe it's a parking ticket, maybe it's a stomach virus, maybe it's you don't get the promotion that you wanted, or it can be any number of things. But there are many times that we are reaping what we have sown. And sometimes it is clear. It's almost a blessing when you do get that immediate like karma, like slap on the hand from the universe, like, oh my gosh, and you know what it was, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is totally because of that. It's amazing. And it's also a good sign too, because it means that the universe cares, that God, your angels, whoever in your spiritual team is in charge of like steering you through your life, they're like just caring about you and wanting you to stay on track and on path, and they don't want you to backslide and go backwards. They also don't want you to build more negativity for yourself, because as we talked about last week, and I pointed out on my scales, at any given time in life, like we are sowing seeds. And so are you sowing negative seeds or are you sowing positive seeds? There's a way to work off your negativity. There's a few ways to do it. Some of it is pain and suffering. Some of it is humiliation. Some of it is by doing kindness or acts of charity. Some of it is sacrificing your ego, right? And dying to those negative layers and those old belief systems in yourself. But yeah, so you're always adding to that pile. And so you don't want to be adding negativity. And so when you get that slap on the wrist, it's sort of an immediate correction to even it out again. So it takes that negativity off the negative side and it lightens you up again. So don't bemoan the punishment. Actually embrace the punishment, and it elevates more light for you on the back end of it. It takes even more negativity and it takes it off the scale. If you're like, oh, this is great, I totally deserve this punishment, this is great, I'm just gonna embrace it and I feel good, I feel better now it's like, what's done is done, and my hands are clean. But sometimes it's not that obvious. Sometimes you don't reap what you sow immediately. Sometimes it comes back around and you don't recognize it. And that's those times in life where stuff's going down and we're like, man, this is so unfair, I don't deserve this. And then you slip into victim mode, right? And you feel disempowered and you feel like everything's happening to you, and you feel like, you've been victimized. And so the way you take ownership of that and you take yourself out of victim mode is you say, you know what? I know I can't see exactly what I sowed for this to be happening to me right now, and it may have been from another lifetime. But I'm going to take ownership of it. Instead of feeling victimized, I'm just going to accept that this is evening out something for me. And even if I didn't directly sow this experience that's coming back to me, even though it might feel random, that negative experience still has positivity attached to it because it's still working off your negativity, right? So when you experience these things, if they're not something that you have perpetuated immediately in that situation, you can use it to your advantage to actually reveal more light, right? If you use it to heal a wound or change your mind about something or your perspective, or you're able to handle the situation in a way that's not reactive, but in a way that actually is, it's for the greater good, or in a spirit of compassion or sharing. Another thing that I wanted to talk about here was that, we talked about the direct supervision of the light. So that means that you're actually when you're more elevated and you're like a more serious spiritual student, like the direct supervision, like you'll have like faster backlash, like instant karma, that thing. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was that, have you ever put like your heart and soul into something in life and you maybe stuck it out for years and you put everything, your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and it just didn't pan out? Relationships, businesses, dreams, like things that you had such high hopes and desires for, and your whole everything was in it, and it just didn't work out. It blew up in your face. All that effort that you put in is not wasted. And it seems like it is at the time, but it really isn't. That effort that you put into those things in your life that didn't work out for you, that you didn't get any fruits or any results from, they go into this energetic bank account for you. And it's basically like, Abraham Hicks talks about, it's in your vortex. And so all of these things are waiting for the right moment, for the perfect delivery to give to you. So yes, you may not have seen your dream realized in that moment or in that essence that you wanted it in, but it will come back to you later. Like, you may have worked so hard to do everything you could for a relationship, a romantic relationship. Maybe you tried to help your partner and they were struggling with substance abuse. And maybe that put a strain on your life for years. And, regardless of whether it's a good idea or a bad idea to get involved with someone with a substance abuse problem, it's like you were in it and it was too late, and you loved the person and you tried to stick it out. Or it was like maybe you were with someone and you guys had some like relationship issues and you kept trying to put in the work and you kept trying to make the changes and like they just never did, right? And you kept putting it in and they kept dragging it out and, whatever. And finally it all ended and you're like, but this has been years. Like, I thought we were working towards something and you've just been waiting to leave, kind of thing. Like that, when you feel so devastated and in despair because you feel like you gave something your best efforts and it just turned to ash, that all those efforts, they're going in somewhere and they will come back to you. Those are seeds that you've planted and you will reap them in one way or another. You will have the relationship that you worked for. Like, it will come back to you as a romantic relationship, as a partner who's going to be an equal partner for you, that you will have that kind of devotion returned to you eventually. Same for like your creative efforts, or, when you really put your heart and soul into something and you're sincere about it and it means something to you, it's real, like your integrity is in it, then that is an honest, Like you've honestly invested your love and your heart and your soul, and that energy is there and it's waiting for you, and it will be transmuted into something else that will bring blessings back to you. So you've never wasted your energy. And as far as like negativity, if you've done negative things in life, you don't always have to look over your shoulder waiting for it to come back on you, because we have mercy, we have grace. That's part of God's gift to us, and that's part of Christ's gift to us when he came and died on the cross. That's the cross, the sacrifice, that's a whole thing in and of itself. I'm not going to go into that tonight. It'll be a 3-hour talk. But we have, in this realm of the material world, we are dealing with time and space. And sometimes that can be frustrating, because that can be the thing that allows us to feel impatient, or we feel like our thing's not working out, or it's like, oh, will it ever work? And then that space is where chaos can creep in and cause pain and suffering. Well, there's also a blessing in that, because if we did not have time and space and we just manifested things immediately, and we just manifested all of our energy that we reaped everything we sowed instantaneously. I mean, my God, can you imagine? Explosions everywhere, just like hands coming out of nowhere, just slapping people. So instead of reaping immediately, we have the blessing of time and space. So if you mess up, if you do a faux pas, if you fuck up, if you blow a fuse, if you do something unkind or selfish or shady or just make a mistake, it's okay, because that backlash is not going to be immediate. Like, there's time and space that has to play out. Or like, say you were like fixated on worrying about something, it's like you're not going to manifest that immediately. You have the mercy of time and space, and it's during that time and space that you can take proactive action to try to atone for that action that you did that was negative. And to do that, you have sincere remorse in your heart, and you ask for forgiveness in the heavenly sense. You confess, you offload that, and then you make a change. You can't keep behaving in that same way, so you have to stop doing the thing. And then other ways that you can offload your negativity, like from the Christian sense, it's like you are forgiven. Your sins have been washed in the blood of the Lamb. But still, in the participating in our experience of life, not just like flaccidly like a one and done, like I'm a Christian, just deliver me to heaven. Like, you want to be involved, right? There's still all of this energy and like spiritual law going on behind the scenes, whether we have like our guaranteed ticket to heaven or not. So you might as well get in the process. And the process is trying to atone for the things that we've done that are wrong. And so some of the things that we can do that'll just generally, work off some of that negativity is doing sharing acts towards others, donating to charity, helping people, doing things particularly that are outside of your comfort zone. So like if it's easy for you to donate money, then it might be extra effective for you to go actually donate your time if that's harder for you. If you have a hard time like letting go of money, then maybe it's like you should tithe, to a charity or to a place where you get spiritual support. But that helps work off negativity. Also, things that we don't have control over help us work off negativity, like illness or pain, or like emotional pain or physical pain. That can, public ridicule and humiliation works off a lot of negativity. If you have anything happen, like a public ridicule or like a big embarrassment, thank heaven for it, because it's really saving you something worse in the long run. It's just like a painless way to work off negativity without having to like go through an illness or something. It's just your ego that's hurt. That's the best. It's the best way to work off your negativity, trust me. So yeah, so I think that the good news here and the really positive note that I wanted to end on was that don't feel like your efforts have ever been wasted. When you've put your heart into something, when you've put your sincerest efforts, it will come back to you. It may not be in the vessel that you put the energy in, but something will be returned in the end. And I think it's important that this lesson came up now, because as I've been doing the 2023 predictions playlist for the monthlies, I'm up to March now. I was going to try to do April before work tomorrow. But the theme, so January is all about like really offloading any of the leftover negative residue from old grief, things that we need to grieve and leave behind, all of our old stories and like patterns from the past. We're getting rid of like any toxic like anger, like anything that's held in that's still sort of keeping us like attached to that old mindset or like that old perception of who we were or what we've been through or how life was to us. All of those things, it's like we're just leaving in the past because we want to like wash the slate clean so we can actually start stepping forward and embodying like the elevated, like up-leveled version of ourself, like the self that doesn't get so anxious about things, the self that is not like so insecure or self-conscious that we can't like let go and have fun and let our hair down, you know, like all of those things, like the part of us that's scared to open up in a romantic way because we're afraid of losing all our freedom or getting hurt or abandoned or like being told that we're crazy or weird or whatever. So it's like we're trying to put all of those old self-defeating tendencies in the past. And so because of that, there's been a lot of these like latent, hidden, old things coming up into our awareness, like old memories. Like we're suddenly kind of reliving them, but like we've got enough distance now where we're almost living them, like looking from the outside as if it was happening to someone else, where we can be like, oh my gosh, like you can just witness the whole thing and be like, oh, well, those people clearly have their own problems and oh my gosh, that must have been so painful and you know, all that stuff. So it's like letting that emotion purge out of you so that it can be released. It's not circling into the quagmire again. It's just like processing it, like digestion. You need to get that grief out and let it go so it's gone for good. And so you're just like so much like so light afterwards and just have so much more clarity and space within you and space in your heart to open up. February was about, if I can remember properly, it's about heart opening, and it's the next step coming out of putting all of our baggage in the past and leaving it there. We've come so far in healing our inner child and our children, healing the parent wounds from the mother and the father. And so now we are able to sort of have this new awakening in our heart because we have a different idea of what's possible now within our lives and our relationships. So there could be romantic possibility come February, but love and money are tied together. And so there was also an expansion of abundance in February. That's right. There was fortune was a theme. And so the point was that whatever you have to give fortune something to expand it, right? When Jupiter is influencing us and it's the expansion of Jupiter, it's like Jupiter will expand the efforts that you put in. So it's important that we're consciously sowing what we want expanded right now. We're trying to clear the ground so that there's not any toxic influences in our seeds that we're planting, that we're sowing. And we're wanting to put in our greatest efforts We're wanting to make sure that we are fine-tuning the quality of energy and consciousness and intention that we are putting into anything that we're putting our hands to. So staying in a positive state of mind, staying in a playful, fun state of mind. You want your heart full of love. If you start feeling like really irritable and like tired and aggravated, just like take a break and go get your mindset right, and then go back to what you're doing. Because your energy is the seed level that you're creating with, right? So we want to keep that in mind in February, because February can bring a lot of expansion and luck and good fortune. It's just that it's going to expand what we're giving it. So make sure that you're sowing what you want to be sowing what you want to be reaping in February. So March, though, there's the theme around March is that there are the preparation that we've been doing. Like, we need to stay on our game. Like, what is that? What do they say to athletes? Not game face, but kind of like when you're like out in the outfield and you have to stay ready to move really fast. I don't know. I was not an athlete. My sister played softball. I was like the theater kid, the dancer, and the artist. But it's like, stay in a position where you can be agile and like wily and like quick. Because there's going to be opportunity presenting itself in March, but we're going to have to be really quick to jump on that opportunity. It's going to be fleeting. We might have opportunities for relationships. We might have opportunities for jobs. We might have opportunities for fun experiences. But whatever it is, I feel like it's a brief moment. And we need to seize our opportunity. Carpe diem is like the name of the game in March. There's also, I feel like there's going to be a surge of motivation and inspiration and energy in March, and like you can be really super productive. But again, it's like you got to seize that energy and use it while it's there. It's not going to stay. It's like a phenom. So there's a moment that we want to be prepared for. Oprah talks about luck in this term. She talks about it being timing meeting preparedness. And so we've been preparing for months. And pretty much all of 2022. I mean, for my whole life, I've been preparing for this moment. I don't even know what this moment is going to hold. But literally for the past year, we've been clearing the grounds to start building something in 2023. And so this is our first quarter. So the first quarter is going to present us with an opportunity, and we need to be ready for it. We've been preparing. All of our messages recently have been like, timing is the issue. It's a matter of timing. Timing is the thing. So, you know, at any given time, we have to wait for other people's free will to line up, whether it be in whatever category we're talking about, whether it's work, whether it is a dream that we want to have, this like adventure, if it's a relationship. There's all these factors and other people and things that are involved that need time and space to move into place, into position. So I think that there's a movement going on behind the scenes right now. If this is the new season of life, they are preparing to shoot the next scene. So just be ready. Movement going on. It just doesn't feel like it right now. Or it kind of does. Like, I can sense things stirring below the surface. It's just like, can't quite put my finger on it yet, but I can feel it. Something good is coming. All right, you guys. So reaping what we sow. Definitely be ready to be sowing your seeds and be ready to jump on opportunities that present themselves in March. And don't be wishy-washy. Don't be indecisive. Don't be self-defeating. Don't be timid, right? We want to seize the opportunity coming up, because it could be huge things that could expand into great abundance, great joy, great fulfillment. They could have a real long-term potential. I mean, that was another thing in March. It was like March and February were very connected. It was like something is building and it's starting. I feel that by the way that the cards were laid out, I feel like it's like going to be like towards the end of February. It's going to cross over into March, but something is going to be starting in that time period that could have the potential to be have long-term security, long-term stability, long-term value, long-term fulfillment, right? So yeah, just keep your eye out for something of that nature or things of that nature to cross your path. All right, let's read this and then we're out. Sowing and reaping the truth. Sowing and reaping truth. Truth, which has existed from the beginning, is sown everywhere. And many see it being sown, but few see it being reaped. It's like when you see the seeds being sown, it's like you can see people like, oh, they're working so hard. Look at them working so hard and working 2 jobs through medical school. Like you can see those seeds being sown. But you don't always see the efforts, the return on the effort. It's not always obvious. So just know that whatever work you've put into something, if it hasn't shown you any like fruits yet, it's okay. They're coming. Your efforts have not been wasted. Do not despair. And many people see people doing shitty things and you're like, oh my God, like they're going to reap such karma. Like you can see people doing like shitty things and you're like, I want revenge. I want, like, how dare they do this to me? But the Bible says vengeance is mine for a reason. It's because you don't want to create more negativity by getting your hands dirty. The seeds, the sown, whatever was sown there will be reaped. Like they will get theirs. It will come back. The universe will slap them on their wrist with whatever is appropriate for what they've sown that we haven't seen. And then there's always this too. It's like you might see somebody that just seems to have it so easy and they never have financial problems or whatever. And it's because they've sown things that you haven't seen and they're reaping what you haven't seen. They might have had a very difficult time in another life, or they might have been a sage or a righteous person in another life. And so they're getting easy street in this life. You don't ever know. So we really can't judge, right? And when you see somebody like, oh, that asshole, like they have it coming, they do have it coming. So don't worry. All right, you guys, truth, which has existed from the beginning, is sown everywhere. And many see it being sown, but few people see it being reaped. All right. I am tired. I am hungry. I'm starving. I hope that you guys have a wonderful, this is probably Sunday when you're seeing this or whenever. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend or day or evening or what have you. And Jesus loves us. Good night. Ciao.